appreciation to the Academy of Fine Arts Katowice, particularly the International Design Conference Organizing Committee for inviting me to share my perspective on graphic design. Despite the necessity of research as the basis on my own writing about graphic design history, I would like to focus on how research underpins my work, and especially my students' work. My talk serves to link academic knowledge pertaining to my work and that of my students as a vehicle for graphic design education. The talk will focus on the exploration of different cultures through design. It will begin with my own visual exploration and continue with a discussion of student design solutions. I will begin with a discussion of my study of German and Japanese symbol systems. Following, I will discuss student design solutions from class projects in England and examples from week-long workshops comparing and contrasting the cities of Boston and Nanjing. I will then show my student typographic animated narratives around the many different aspects of violence in contemporary society, concluding with motion graphic examples based on the melodrama Perrault Lumiere Opus 21. The purpose of this first visual exploration was to investigate the influences that different cultures have on symbol systems. Pictographic signage programs communicate important information and directions simply to people from all cultural backgrounds and meant to bridge language barriers. In 1974, the United States Department of Transportation commissioned the American Institute of Graphic Arts to create a master set of passenger and pedestrian-oriented signs. The final set of symbols were designed here and drawn by Roger Cook and Don Chernowski. However, my visual exploration was developed in the belief that worldwide public reaction to these symbols may be dependent on culture, gender, language, age, and literacy. So I set out to visually challenge this notion and at the same time have some fun with this visual exploration. An important inspiration for my exploration was the traditional Japanese family symbol, or crest, the principal expression in use for 1,000 years. The mon, or mancho in Japanese for the most part, are a byproduct of war. Men first began to use them for identification on battlefields around the end of the 12th century. As a crest by itself, the circle carries obvious connotations of perfection, harmony, completeness, integrity, even peace. In Japanese heraldry, the dominant use of the circle was not by itself, however, but as an enclosure for other motifs. The enclosure served two purposes: to make one's mark more distinctive and to make possible subtle variations of crests among branches of the same family line. The circular red rising sun first appeared as a popular decorative pattern on fans in the early Heian period. It was not adopted as a national emblem until 1854, and the Japanese red rising flag was not designed until 1870. Another important inspiration is European heraldic design. At first, the system of emblems was simplified, simple and functional. They appeared as for purposes of identification, and in the earliest times with the intent of frightening the enemy. The shield is the heart of any armorial bearing, with its colors, metals, furs, and distinctive designs. The stylized heraldic shield is the surviving counterpart of the actual weapon of defense traditionally carried on the left arm by warriors through much of human history. Animals, particularly the lion, were displayed by the earliest eras of heraldic arms. During the Crusades, some real monstrosities stalked into this bestiary. These exotic creatures are still seen in heraldry. For this visual exploration, I chose two countries, Germany and Japan, and developed two sets of symbols taking into consideration each country's culture, tradition, history, and visual language. My overriding goal was to create a new family of symbols combining the traditional Japanese family symbol, European heraldic design, and retain the overall harmony of the 1974 United States Department of Transportation's passenger and pedestrian-oriented signs. Here, pictured is on the left for money exchange. The Japanese symbols are on the left, and the German symbols are on the right. Symbol for a bookstore and bookshop. For the Japanese symbols, I recreated symmetrical designs from existing Japanese crests, combined with easily recognizable illustrations. Symbols for botanical garden, symbols for medical assistance or hospital, symbol for time. Generally for the Japanese symbols, the shape is circular, thus the objects are contained in a circle. In these two examples, the circle is used for both the Japanese and German symbols. Symbols for telephone, symbols for bank. Oftentimes I would simply use the most recognizable image, for example, the yen or euro signs. Symbol for sake and wine bar. Symbols for airport. From the designer or my perspective, always a delicate balance between introducing easily understood images while trying to develop and maintain a unique personality for each sign in the overall family of symbols. Symbol for gift store. And symbols for bus stop. And symbols for luggage area. For these two designs, the shape of the suitcase is unchanged, except for some decorative elements in the German word for luggage. Symbol for confectionery. Symbols for houses of worship. For these two symbols, I embrace the design with some humor. And city center, and symbol for a subway, and symbol for a grocery store or market. For these two symbols, the dominant fruit image remains the same in both the Japanese and German symbols. And symbol for coffee shop and cafe. Symbols for a men's washroom. In these two examples, they are both easily recognizable with subtle differences in the treatment of each. One is a bit more organic and the other a bit more geometric. And a symbol for a restaurant. I'd like to continue showing creative activity and engagement in my classroom. Pictured here are recent workshops I have led in China. Although I am an advocate for technological pedagogy and new media, I strongly encourage and value a hands-on process. Students are encouraged to be resourceful and 100% authors of their own work, sustain a high volume of work and artistic output. I encourage risk-taking, passion, and conviction, and I encourage a spirit of experimentation and exploration. Although my classroom is a serious environment, and that I hold my students to a high standard, there are always moments of levity. Much of my recent activity as an educator includes international activities and collaborations with educators and designers from all over the world, and especially the students, working with the students. I am an educator who is committed to a collaborative learning environment that combines a technologically driven education, interdisciplinary knowledge for the arts with a liberal arts foundation. Although my students come from a variety of disciplines and backgrounds, we share a common goal of pursuing our own artistic vision in ways that contribute to culture and society as a whole. Boston University's London Liberal Arts Program in graphic design is a study abroad program I established in 2004 through Boston University International Programs Office. It provides a unique opportunity for visual arts students to study in one of the world's most important cities for graphic design. The course focuses on the methods and procedures used in the practice of graphic design, and they are studied in relationship to the culture of England and the cultural diversity of London. One of the main assignments in the London Graphic Design program is a short, multi-page concept book visually communicating the visual culture of the city. The objective of the assignment was to take a closer look at the personality of London. This student focused on the iconic telephone box. I challenged the students to think about how living in or visiting a city influences how we think and what we see. To carry out the project, the students collected images from London by various methods, such as hand drawings, painting, and digital photography. The students scanned and photocopied the London material, and the students were asked to consider integrating typography in exploring different methods of visualizing narration, continuous text, typographic expression, and diagrammatic representations. This student's concept book focused on her experience of being an American in London, or how not to stand out like the American you are. Her book focused primarily on humor through a creative narrative. She combined typography and hand-drawn illustrations to provide a set of instructions how not to stand out like a tourist. She sequenced the pages like an instruction manual based on her research of the subject matter. In November of 2010, the Design College at Nanjing Arts Institute invited me to give a workshop. The objective of the workshop was to compare and contrast the western and eastern cities of Boston and Nanjing. By taking a closer look at the personality of these two cities and develop a cultural concept book. So I brought items representative of my hometown of Boston, including photographs, postcards, stamps, newspapers, assorted sports paraphernalia, including Red Sox and memorabilia from the world-famous Boston Marathon. I demonstrated different working methodologies, for example, photocopying multiple images at different sizes and collage techniques. 35 students participated in the week-long workshop. The students were allowed to use either English text or Chinese calligraphy or a combination of the two. They also integrated text from historical Boston narratives, including Ralph Waldo Emerson poetry and the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere that I supplied. The final designs comprised a variety of books that included handmade sculpted shapes, expressive typography, postcard images, statues, and architecture of Boston. Students also focused on the cinematic aspects of multi-page design, unity, pacing, contrast, and rhythm. Students scanned and photocopied the Boston material and combined them with their own drawings, paintings, and photographs of their own city of Nanjing, China. I asked the students to think about how to convey visually the mood and temperament of the subject matter and their experiences Nanjing from their point of view, and conversely, their impressions of Boston. The solutions combine Eastern and Western imagery with English text and Chinese calligraphy to form a unique and unusual juxtaposition of design elements. The student work created during the workshop was printed, assembled, and exhibited in the Design College Art Gallery. It was an excellent collaboration and cross-cultural dialogue in the graphic arts. In May of last year, you can see a pattern here, I led a second workshop at the Design College at Nanjing's Arts Institute. Pictured here is the entire group of graduate students and their professors. Pictured here are students in the initial phase of the project with timeline examples that I provided as inspiration in the background. The first project explored structural nature of letter forms through a series of typographic investigations. The objective was to achieve greater sensitivity to letter form structure and explore multiple solutions under detailed constraints. For the second project, students could choose a theme for a personal timeline. Next, they designed a visual representation communicating their path up until 2011. Another option was to develop an information graphic illustrating major cultural and art events across one decade. The purpose of this project is to exercise skills in hierarchy and visual logic and to design with clarity and legibility. The objective was combining multiple analyzed layers of data into an organized visual representation, enabling the viewer efficient navigation and the use of information. The student work created during the workshop, again, was printed, assembled, and exhibited in the Design College Art Gallery. The last part of my lecture will focus on creative activity in response to Boston University College of Fine Arts' mission to develop an expanding number of academic collaborations across the university, especially tailored to help in the development of an artist for the 21st century. In response to this ambitious mission, a number of new initiatives were implemented to help the college realize its long-standing goals. 2011 marked the inaugural year of the college's keyword initiative based on the theme violence. So I asked my undergraduate students, and I wanted to underscore undergraduate work here, to choose one word or phrase around the concept of violence and animate the word in 10 seconds or less according to their interpretation of its meaning.
These are revolutionary times. We cannot turn back. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. Somehow this madness must cease. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. It is no longer a choice between violence and non-violence in this world. It's non-violence or non-existence. The first hope in our inventory must be the hope that love is going to have the last word.
Found in every level of society and contemporary culture, violence is one of the world's most complex problems. As the 10th anniversary of 9/11 just passed and we're bombarded daily with news of foreign wars, political uprisings, gang warfare, and domestic disputes, we feel compelled to wrestle with its root causes.
The only verdict is vengeance, a vendetta, held as a votive, not in vain, for the value and veracity of such shall one day vindicate the vigilant and the virtuous.
No piece of art, no matter how forceful, reflective, or coherent, can offer answers. It can only provoke discussion by presenting one perspective on a multifaceted issue. The goal is to create a dialogue that explores solutions to the societal issue. Every layer of society is touched by violence. It weaves through the individual and into the family and culture, threading its way through wars, sports, medicine, and politics, constantly fueled by a voracious news media, and via this overload finds its way back to the individual again. Violence is one of the world's most complex problems, and finding solutions requires a holistic, interdisciplinary approach. Each year, more than 1.6 million people worldwide lose their lives to violence, and gun-related deaths are a significant problem in the United States of America. For every person who dies as a result of violence, many more are injured and suffer from a variety and range of physical, sexual, reproductive, and mental health problems. Free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want.
Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much, feel too little.
I would like to conclude with motion graphic examples based on the melodrama Perrault Lumiere, Opus 21. The composition of Perrault Lumiere is closely linked to my college's keyword initiative based on the theme violence. 2012 marks the centennial of Arnold Schoenberg's composition of Perrault Lumiere. This initiative is a wonderful opportunity to develop a unique and groundbreaking solution in the form of multimedia that would be projected as a chamber ensemble performs live music. The initial idea would entail the graphic representation of the composer Arnold Schoenberg's melodrama. It is a setting of 21 selected poems from a German translation of Albert Giraud's cycle of French poems of the same name. The following piece is from one of Perrault Lumiere poems entitled Black Butterflies. This clip was inspired by the poem Perrault the Thief.
Surround
This clip was inspired by the poem Moon Jump. This last clip